Hi everybody, it's Susan from Sunrise Quilt Studio and welcome to week 18 of the Stash Buster block series. And the block we're doing this week is called the Mayflower. You can see it's a little sailboat and this is an 8-inch block. It's a 4-patch layout and it can be easily made into a 12-inch block. So please stay tuned and I'll show you how to put this block together. Okay, this block is goes together pretty quickly, even though it does have a lot of pieces, and it's just a really cute block. I think this would look really cute as a child's quilt. But what you're going to need, you need 3 different colors, and starting with your dark, you'll need 1 square that is 2 7/8, and then you'll need 2 that are 2.5 inches. For your medium fabric, you'll need 2 pieces that are 2 7/8. And for your background pieces, you'll need 3 that are 2 7/8, and then you'll need 8 that are 2.5. And that's all you'll need to make this quilt block. Well, the first thing we're going to do is to make the half square triangles, and to do that I need to take these 3 2 7/8 inch squares and draw a diagonal line from one corner to the next, and do that on the wrong side. So I'm going to use my little seam gauge here. You can use any tool that you've got, just a regular ruler or a sewing rotary cutting ruler, whatever, and just draw a line, and just draw it dark enough you can see it. This will not be in your work anywhere. This is a sewing guide and a cutting guide, so you'll be cutting along that line. And I'm just using a pencil, but you can use an ink pen or a fabric marker or water soluble pen or whatever you want. That beeping noise is my iron. Okay, so I have those, and now what I need to do is to take one of my dark 2 7/8 inch square. I only have one of those. I'm going to match those right sides together, and then I'll do the same with the medium 2 7/8 inch squares and line those up right sides together. And then I'm going to stitch 1/4 inch away from both sides of this line here. So I'll have stitching here and stitching here all the way across. So we'll go to the sewing machine and do that. Okay, so now I'm going to just stitch 1/4 inch away from that line that I drew. And I'm just going to chain piece these pieces, just sew one right after the other. Now when I'm working on pieces that are going in at a diagonal with the point going in first, they don't butt up against each other well. That's why I have to pull this one out to get the other one started. But they'll still be all chained together. And it just makes things go a little faster. Swing it around and do the other side. And line up the next piece. And then do the third one. Okay, now I'm going to cut these apart, and then I'm going to cut them along the line that I drew. So this line here that I drew, that is now my cutting line. So I'll take my scissors and just cut those apart. And this will give me 2 half square triangles. Now there are other methods of doing this. You can just cut the triangles out to begin with and then sew them together. And there's other methods where you can make, I don't know, 4 to 8 of them at a time. But I don't need that many for this project, so I'm just doing them this method here. So now I need to press these open. Okay, we're going to press these towards the darker fabric. And just lay them with your dark side up. And then just roll it out and press. And just make a nice stack of those. And you can use your steam if you want. So I should have 6 half square triangles when I'm done here. So there's 4 of the medium blue, and there's 2 of the dark. Okay. The next thing I want to do is to trim off these dog ears because they don't serve a purpose and they just add extra bulk that I really don't want in my quilt. So I'm going to trim them off. Now, I know a lot of people that leave them on, and that's fine too. So if you don't want to take this extra step, then don't feel like you need to, because you really don't. You don't need to do this part. Okay, we're going to start laying these out. I'm just going to start in the upper left-hand corner with a white square, and then the medium half square triangle, and just watch which direction that you lay your triangles. And you could lay them this way, but the pattern is actually for this direction, so we'll follow the pattern and end with another white square. So we're just going to repeat this row. It's going to be the same. And now the bottom row, we're doing the base of the boat, so we have the dark half square triangle and then the 2 dark 2.5 inch squares, and then the other half square triangle, and this one goes this direction. So here you have the boat shape, and then your bottom row is all the white 2.5 inch squares. So there we go. Now we're all laid out and we're ready to sew these into rows and then sew the rows together. Now you can also sew these into a 4-patch unit and then sew them together. However you like to do it, it doesn't matter. Anyway, I'm going to take this to the sewing machine and get started sewing. I'm going to sew my pieces into rows and then sew the rows together instead of doing the 4-patch method. And so I'm just picking up the first 2 pieces and we'll just sew them together. And then I'm going to pick up the next 2 pieces and sew them together. And you can use any number of different methods to put these together. Just whatever makes sense to you. Today I am just going to do these 1 row at a time and hopefully not get too confused. So here are the first 2 pieces. I've got them, and then I want to sew the 2 sails together, the 2 half square triangles. So those 2 will get sewed together. And I'm going to save all the pressing for when I get all of the rows done so that I can make sure that I'm pressing in the right direction. So that row is done. And that should look like this when you're done. That's row 1. So I'm going to put it back on the ironing board and start on row 2. Got the first 2 pieces of this one. Okay, I'm going to sew those 2 sections together. And that's row 2 now. So we have row 2. And then row 3 is the base of the boat. And this, on this row, the 2 single dark squares should go together. So we have these 2 sections, and they need to go together like this. So we'll just run them through. And here is row 3. And then row 4 is just the white squares, sewing them together. So there's the first 2, and here's the last 2. And then we'll sew those 2 sets together. Okay, so there you go, the 4 white squares together. Okay, now we need to press these and sew them together. Okay, so I have my rows pressed, and what I did for this top row is I pressed the seams towards my right, and on this row towards the left, towards the right, and towards the left. I'm hoping that allow me to be able to see these points fairly well when I get them under the presser foot of my sewing machine, so that I can see to match my points. And since I'm sewing these 2 rows together, what I want to be able to do is to see this stitching line and this stitching line, and then sew right just above where those 2 lines of stitching meet. So I want to take this over to the sewing machine and get started sewing these rows together. Okay, so I'm going to match up my seams, and I'm going to try and match up my points, and I'm going to go ahead and use a pin right at the tip of this triangle here, and then insert it right above the tip of the triangle in the next row. And line those up. And if I can do this without anything shifting, then these points should be one right on top of the other, and I should be able to put this together without any trouble. Well, we'll see how that goes. There's no guarantees. So anyway, let's get started. Now there's points on each intersection and you can't see them all, so you have to kind of rely on your piecing and see how accurate that was. But you also have to realize that fabric moves, it stretches, and sometimes it just does not do what you want it to do. I can see where my stitching line is, and I'm just going to go right above that intersection. And let's see how I did. Okay, it's not too bad. So this is a good point here, and this is where I was sewing blind. Where I matched the 2 points up together, I didn't do so well. It's still not bad, but there is a little bit of, you can see a little bit of the white fabric in the background showing through. But that's, to me, this is good enough. I'm not going to redo this. Not making a show quilt, so I'm not going to stress over it. I have enough stress from other things in my life. I'm just going to let that go. Okay, so I'm going to sew the other 2 rows together and do the same thing. I can match up my seams and watch my intersections where my points are, and I've got one coming up. And I just kind of slow down at those points. And then here's another intersection, and on this one, the point is right there, so let's see how we do. So now I need to put these 2 rows together, and then the block will be ready to be pressed. Just taking the time to get my seams to lie flat. Now this block would be real easy to make into a 12-inch block. So if you want something a bit larger, you can make it a 12-inch block. Okay, so I have those 2 rows sewn together, and now let's press this block. Okay, so here is the block, and I'm going to go ahead and press this, and it doesn't really matter which way you press. On these others, I kind of pressed it down. So let's just do that. Now if you're putting all these blocks side by side, you may want to press one block with all the seams going down. You might want to press the others all going up, so that when you nest them together in rows, you'll have your seams going in opposite directions. Here are the 4 blocks that I made. I have a green and a blue, pink and fuchsia, and a purple one. So you can make these in all different colors, and I think they'd all be pretty cute. As far as putting them in different layouts, you know, that all depends on you. If you know, you can put them like this, and gives you a different look. You can face them all out in that direction. You can just do them in rows, you know, whatever you'd like to do. And of course you can put sashing between them. You can just put alternate blocks between them, whatever you like. Just lay these out, just have fun playing with them. They don't really make any secondary design that I can see, but I think they're cute. I like the bright colors, and I think they're interesting. Anyway, well, there you have it. There is the Mayflower block, and I did it in 4 different colors, and I think they're really cute. I don't have a baby in the family to make a quilt for right now, but that's what I think of as a baby quilt for maybe a little boy, or even just a child that likes boats, especially if they like sailing. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you'll stick around for the rest of the series. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if so, I hope you will click the like button, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. You can find the written instructions for this block as an 8-inch as well as a 12-inch on my blog. That's at sunrisequiltstudio.wordpress.com. You can also follow me on Instagram at Sunrise Quilt Studio. And I hope you all staying safe and staying healthy, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. For more quilting ideas, click on the video links. And to keep up with my latest projects, click on the subscribe button. I hope to see you again soon.